I said, that Father, this is real. Will you watch over them? Will you raise them up to be strong? I'm just a man with flesh. This is what you call for in your scriptures. You said they wore studs and fringes, they got it on. You said they will follow the law, they doing it. You said under your house shine, they ought to love one another. And they doing it.
One West, that's who we are, nigga. One West, One West. So who is y'all, nigga? One West, One West. We want it all, nigga. That's who we are, nigga. So who is y'all, nigga? One West, One West. That's who we are, nigga. One West, One West. So who is y'all, niggas? One West, One West. We want it all, nigga. That's who we are, nigga. So who is y'all, niggas?
UPK soldiers got them killers with me, and I don't fuck with every spot cause it's too iffy. Real motherfucking prophet cause the Lord with me, but don't get that shit twisted, I got Drake's with me. Yeah, bitch, and that whole 50. Run up on me wrong, you gon' catch 60. Wait, you gon' catch 20. The other 30 for your homies, bitch, I got plenty. And I'll shoot this motherfucker till that clip empty. Taking orders from your bitch, you a fucking simpy. Shit, should be televised. The way I'm cutting niggas up, bitch, I'm a samurai. Niggas swear they in the truth, but telling hella lies. Stumping like you Greek, bitch, you Hellenized. The revolution gon' be televised, and what I see in my vision gon' leave you petrified.
One West, One West, that's who we are, nigga. One West, One West. So who is y'all, nigga? One West, One West. We want it all, nigga. That's who we are, nigga. So who is y'all, nigga? One West, One West. That's who we are, nigga. One West, One West. So who is y'all, niggas? One West, One West. We want it all, nigga. That's who we are, nigga. So who is y'all, niggas?
UPK soldiers lead cowards and awe. So fuck a gas stop, I came with 6 pumps in my car. My niggas ready to swing, we like kids at the park. So touch a chair around this bitch and we breaking your jaw. They think we Christian but we not, nothing about us is soft. I don't know what you niggas on, but that shit get you off. We booted up, we came to take zones for real. Black 40 under my garment, I be dressed to kill. 4th dimension sitting linger, I be fresh for real. Putting scripts on your corners, but these here ain't pills. We rock covers, you official if you know those drills. Bread and water, you official if you know those meals. Yeah, you niggas soldiers get rolled over. You got police in your pocket, I got a judge in my holster. Oppressors out to get it, so remain sober. Or be chained to them chains till there's nothing that remains of us. A cult leader like Christ, we got the same culture. I bang on them, tell my enemies the reign's over. I up the sig and keep pulling like a chain smoker. The game ain't changed, One West stayed the same on them.
One West, One West, that's who we are, nigga. One West, One West. So who is y'all, nigga? One West, One West. We want it all, nigga. That's who we are, nigga. So who is y'all, nigga? One West, One West. That's who we are, nigga. One West, One West. So who is y'all, niggas? One West, One West. We want it all, nigga. That's who we are, nigga. So who is y'all, niggas?
Niggas talking prophets, yeah, we got plenty. We the reason why it's Israelites around the city. Call Kazak, tells a rock, bring Shamara. We about to slide on them, see what niggas talking about. Young dog think he wise cause he a Kim head. That shit lame, they didn't survive, nigga, Kim is dead. Where I'm from, little nigga, is a dirty game. I pledge allegiance to Yahweh, bitch, I'm UPK. Huh, nigga, let's talk bodies. Set up on your corner, wake up everybody. Big priest until I'm dead deceased. The mission is complete until you're off the street. So y'all on the internet stumping down the street. But take the poor and the weak. Touch a sister or a brother, you gon' be sleep. But take the poor and the weak.
One West, One West, that's who we are, nigga. One West, One West. So who is y'all, nigga? One West, One West. We want it all, nigga. That's who we are, nigga. So who is y'all, nigga? One West, One West. That's who we are, nigga. One West, One West. So who is y'all, niggas? One West, One West. We want it all, nigga. That's who we are, nigga. So who is y'all, niggas?
Fucking with the brothers, then I'm giving out major pain. Clip full of ball heads, I'm shooting out Damon Wayne's driven ambition. I ain't never changing lanes, wise as as an old man, but I ain't slanging cane. This ain't a game, this shit way deeper than rap. You speaking the cap, but the shit y'all speaking is cap. I'm 5,000, but I still keep it a stack. I'm in the truth, not cause back then I was seeking the facts. Crying loud for the niggas that's deep in the back. And the Lord with me, ain't no reason for keeping the strap. We peep the attacks, niggas say we ain't speaking the facts. Stealing breakdowns every time we teaching in class. Niggas snitching, y'all out here squeaking with rats. We be on the street corners teaching that Jesus is black.
We on 125th Street, Harlem, nigga, you see where we at?
One West, that's who we are, nigga. One West. So who is y'all, nigga? One West. We want it all, nigga. That's who we are, nigga. So who is y'all, nigga? One West. That's who we are, nigga. One West. So who is y'all, niggas? One West.
We're in front of the Israeli School, Universal Practical Knowledge, the Philadelphia Division, here at 3226 Cheltenham Avenue in Philadelphia. We're standing in front of the school right now, getting a description of the 12 tribe sign that's been painted by one of the brothers that was in the school: Judah, Benjamin, Levi, Simeon, Zebulun, Ephraim, Manasseh, Gad, Reuben, Naphtali, Asher, Issachar. Those are the 12 tribes of Israel.
Shalom. You've been waiting for this day, so this day has finally come. A lot of you have been wondering where this knowledge that you've been hearing is coming from, and the powerful truth that you've been hearing, how this was established. Well, we finally were able to arrange for the priests to come down from New York and spend some time with us. And I'd like to introduce them if I can. These are some great brothers. We're very glad to have them with us. We want to make them feel as warm as possible, because this is their work and the extension of their work and what they've laid down some time ago. I'd like to introduce, first of all, priest and Sixth Shield General, 4th in command in the nation of Israel, Lahab. I'd like to salute this brother, Majah. Barak. Yeshabiam, which means sit. And I'm going to turn it over now to Priest General Lahab.
Water, brother. I'd like to say this, starting off, we're very impressed at your school here, and we're very impressed to see that the brothers and sisters in Philadelphia think enough of the Most High and the Bible and the truth and your nationality to be a part of this, because most of the brothers and sisters are running from the truth.
Hey, Shalom Israel, Shalom, Shalom, Yahweh Shem Yashabrakatham to all the brothers, Yahweh Shemar Alathah Bashim Yashai to all the sisters. Alright, Slack, give me 1 second. And just get this baby quieted down. Put a 1 in the chat if you can hear me, if my sound's too loud. Or just put a 1 in the chat. For what? Alright, put a 1 in the chat if you can hear me. Again, Shalom, this is Monday Night History class. Thawada for tuning in. Shout out to everybody in the chat. Carolyn Radsville, Maria, Yakalia, Maria, Dorothy, and Kwamada. All right, Shalom, Yahweh Shema, Thambashim, Yahweh Thawada for tuning in. All right, make sure you hit that like button. Make sure you share. and subscribe. Help get this truth out. All right, help get this truth out. All right, the book of Revelation says, the Most High has sealed 144,000 men. And when those brothers are sealed, when they come home and they find this truth, understand our King will return. So it's important that we find our brothers, find our sisters, push this truth so that we can get out of this captivity. All right. So again, hit that like button. Make sure you like, share, subscribe, and let's get into it. All right. The topic of today is slavery is not history. You are still a slave. All right. Turn my mic up a little bit. All right. Slavery is not history. You are still a slave. A lot of times I hear people say, just pull your bootstraps up and get a job. You know what I mean? You just got to work harder. You got to stop being lazy. You got to stop being ghetto. You got to stop being, the tyrant of the neighborhood. You know what I mean? They love to say that slavery was done over 150 years ago. So what excuse do we have today to still be crying and bitching about how we're oppressed inside of America? You know what I mean? And it's a very disgusting outlook on a people that have been oppressed for so long. Yeah, I mean, I was looking up some statistics, and there's an interesting thing that when you look at what happened to the Jewish people under Nazi Germany, you know what I mean, after they go through their quote unquote oppression and Holocaust and everything like that, after their oppression is over, they get put in their own land in 1948. They're given their own land. They establish their own government, their own law, their own rules, where they are no longer under German persecution. And so what had me look into that was that saying where white people would love to tell us, if you don't like this place, why don't you go back to Africa? You know what I mean? If you hate America so bad and you're so impoverished and you're so oppressed, why don't you leave this country and go back home? And sure enough, I went to look into this. As of 2025, let me see if I can pull that up really quick. I had, did I close it? Yeah, I had a article which was explaining how, as of 2025, we currently have over 655,000 African Americans that have left America. Man, let me see if I got that article still. Let me check my history really quick, because I thought it was interesting that we are actually leaving. We are leaving at such a high rate. You know what I mean? And it's interesting the places we're going. Let me pull that up before I say too much on that. Let me see. How people tried to cure. Dang, it should be in my history. Salaki, bear with me one sec. I think this is it right here. Let's see if this is it right here. Dang, I wish I didn't close that. Slucky, bear with me one second. It should be at the top of my history. Because, dang. I can't find it. Let me just pull up this one. Just to make the point. I wish I had the other one because it was explaining that, you have over 655,000 African Americans that have relocated across the globe. Let me read this really quick. All right, this isn't the one I wanted, but just to explain the fact that this article says you have an increasing number of African Americans relocating to Africa. And so some people may have heard about this before. They had quote unquote movements like, what was it, Back to Ghana, or the Year of Return, I think it was called. The Year of Return, where you had African Americans going back to Ghana, going back to Kenya. You know what I mean? This big year of return where a black man in America could go back home. You know what I mean? Go back home to the motherland. Go back home to his roots. Go back to a country where, he would see himself, where he would have his own dollar bill, his own land, where he wouldn't be subject to another nation of people. And that ideology is, extremely enticing for a Black, Hispanic, or Indigenous man in America because of everything that we've lost as a people. You know what I mean? One of the main things that we lost was our identity. You know what I mean? We have no idea who we are. And so you hear this thing where Ghana says the year of return, come back home. You know what I mean? That's a very enticing thing for a people who have no knowledge of self, a people who were colonized, a people who had their identity beaten out of them, a people who are tired of the systemic racism inside of America. They want to get out of it. Something General Mahaiman taught me that I'll never forget is if you are Black, Hispanic, or Indigenous, these curses follow you no matter where you are in the globe, on this earth. You go through the curses in Deuteronomy chapter 28, it will tell you if you are a Israelite, you understand? If you are an Israelite and you do not keep the laws, statutes, and commandments of God, that these curses will follow you. These blessings will follow you. You obey me and keep my commandments, I'll put you in a land where you will be above all nations on the face of the earth. You will be a people who are better than every nation of people, a people that would rule this earth, a people that would live in a land flowing of milk and honey. You know what I mean? A land that's rich in resource, rich in gold and oil. You know what I mean? And all the things that help a land or help a nation prosper. That's what the Most High said would happen to the children of Israel if they obeyed him. But if they didn't obey him, then all these curses would follow them. If you're a Black man living in the UK, you are going to be oppressed the same as a Black man inside of Canada, the same as a Black man inside of Jamaica, the same as a Black man inside of America. These curses are going to follow you everywhere. And so now you as a people have lost your identity, and you hear this year of return, come back home to Ghana. The president of Ghana is going to open the country back to all the people who are children of slaves. That sounds good. You see what the Jewish man got that land over in Israel, where he is able to establish himself and his country, where they don't have to be under, German persecution. That's a beautiful thing for people being oppressed. But what's a very sad thing is that these people who are our brothers and sisters going back to Africa, what's sad about that is you're going back to the people that sold you into slavery. Do you understand that those Africans were the ones that sold you, that told the Europeans where you were, how to find you, how to capture you? The different kings that were ruling in Africa during that time, they did not want you there. And they sold you into slavery. And now in 2025, you're going to go back to the people that sold you? That is not freedom. There's something very wrong with our people. And it's very sad that lack of identity would have us make such a stupid and foolish decision. And these are things that aren't new. You see the Rastafarians inside of Jamaica. Look at them and what happened with Haile Selassie. Those Jamaicans moved out to Africa. They moved out to Ethiopia looking at Haile Selassie like he was their savior. Because we're a people that have no knowledge of self. We're a people that lost our identity. We don't know where home is. We have nowhere to go. You tell a Black, Hispanic, or Indigenous man, go back home. They don't know where home is. They're going to go to Ethiopia. They're going to go to Kenya. They're going to go to Ghana. They're going to go to Senegal. They're going to find somewhere in the UK. They had programs over in Portugal, I think it was, Portugal and Spain, encouraging African Americans to bring their wealth and resources and knowledge and skills over to the country. We are a people who do not have a land. We don't have a governing body. Let's look at, let me read this really quick, then I'll get to the history of slavery. Okay, this isn't the article I wanted, but it says, increasing number of African Americans relocating to Africa. A growing number of American Africans say they are considering leaving the United States and relocating to Africa. Those who have made the move cite the need to connect with their history and find a better life. And while President Donald Trump's not a direct reason to leave, they say the political environment is. American YouTuber Austin Holman has lived in various countries for almost a decade and settled in Kenya 9 months ago. He says he believes that the social fabric in the U.S. is broken and that in contrast, he feels socially accepted in Nairobi, picking Kenya because he feels safe there. He says, people look similar to me, or you can say they look like me. It is not like going to Europe or going to some Latin American countries where there are not many Black people, and I think God just wants me here. So, it's very sad that our people are taught, your nationality is based off of what you look like. This brother right here goes to Kenya and says, I see people that look like me. And you think because people look like you that you're the same nation of people? Those people down in Kenya sold you into slavery, Black man. They sold you into slavery. And you're going to go from one people who purchased you as a slave, brought you to America, and from some generations on down, here you are born in America, and you think going back home is over in Kenya. It's a very sick thing that Europeans have done to us. It's a very sick thing that they've taught us, that we're Black. that we are the race or nation that we identify it as is a color. That's a very sick thing to teach a people. It's a very sick thing not to teach them the language they spoke. It's a very sick thing to teach them what their names were coming off of those slave ships. You look at those records of the names of slaves, they all had Hebrew names. That's documented history. So why are you telling them that they're African? Why have you taught black people in America that they are African? That's your school system. It's a very sick thing that they're doing. And so this brother right here goes back to Kenya and says, this is a place that God wants me. God wants me here. He says, it feels like I'm at home. I fit in here. It's a very sad thing that our people do this. I watch the Jamaicans do it over in Ethiopia. You know what I mean? I see our people do that in Ghana, Kenya. I remember 10 years ago, before I knew who I was, what my nationality and my identity was, Ghana looked like a good place for me. Because this is not a place that I want to be. This isn't a place that I want to raise my family. You understand? My son was at school the other day, and he looked at his mother and said, why do I have to keep going to this school with the people that enslaved my people? And that was a tough thing as a father to look at my son and know that this is the place that I have to send you every day. You understand? If you go to the book of Micah, chapter 2 and verse 10, it says, arise ye and depart, for this is not your rest. All right, this is the book of Micah, chapter 2 and verse 10. And it says, arise ye and depart, for this is not your rest. You got to understand, black man, Hispanic man, indigenous man, America is not your rest. Brazil is not your rest. Cuba, Dominican, Haiti, Guatemala, Panama, Venezuela, that is not your rest. This is a place of your captivity. This isn't the place that the Most High promised to you and your ancestors, promised to your forefather Abraham. This is a place of your captivity. You read in the Apocrypha, for the 10 tribes that went to a land that no man ever dwelt, when they got here, they kept pushing north. They kept traveling north so that they could be left alone to serve their God. Because they didn't have rest inside of North America. They were seeking a place where they could serve their God and be left alone, not oppressed. You had Europeans come over here and sell them into slavery. They were the first recorded slaves from the transatlantic slave trade being sold over to Spain and Portugal. This place is not our rest. This isn't a place that you should desire to be. When Christ was speaking to his disciples, and he was saying, whose face is on that coin? Christ responded and said, Caesar. And pay to Caesar what is Caesar's. That is not our money. This is not your dollar bill. This is not the land of your the land of your inheritance. This is the land of your captivity. And you got to understand that one of the reasons we say that in the UPK you are still a slave, you got to understand, when you get paid money, you have to give that money back to your oppressor. Let me grab that verse really quick. If you go to the book of Deuteronomy, chapter 28, and verse 48. And it says, therefore shalt thou serve thine enemies, which the Lord shall send against thee, in hunger and in thirst and in nakedness and in want of all things. So what does that look like, black man? When you get your paycheck, where do you get your food from? When you get your paycheck, where do you get your water from? When you get paid by your oppressor, where do you get your clothes from? You understand? He says, therefore shalt thou serve thine enemies, which the Lord shall send against thee in hunger and in thirst and in nakedness and in want of all things. You cannot survive inside of North and South Central America without getting these different resources from your oppressor. You can't survive. Cuba is one of the only countries that tried to separate themselves from this oppressor. And look at how destroyed Cuba is as a country. That is one of the most impoverished countries on this earth. That's what it said in the book of Revelations, that if you would not accept the mark of the beast, then you would not be able to buy or sell. You wouldn't be able to do, a commerce on a large scale. And because of that, Cuba is destroyed. Because we're so reliant on our oppressor for everything. Relying on him for food, we're relying on him for our survival. So you go to work every day, you make a paycheck, and what do? You pay your landlord that money. You give it right back to your oppressor. You purchase a home, you get that loan from a bank, you get that loan from your oppressor. We don't own anything inside of America. But the scriptures say this is not your rest. You have no rest here in America. And this is, we're going to look at the definitions of what slavery is. Okay, there's an article that says, what are the 6 types of slavery? Number 1 is human trafficking. See if I can make that bigger. Okay, this article says there's 6 different types of slavery. Number 1 is human trafficking. Human trafficking sees people being forcibly moved and recruited using violence or threats in order for them to be exploited for labor, prostitution, marriage, etc. Now, what is an example of human trafficking? That is your transatlantic slave trade. The Bible says you cannot steal a man and sell him. That is against the laws of God. But how did you get over here, black man? It was through human trafficking. Africans sold you to Europeans, and here you are in North and South Central America. That is human trafficking. That is a form of slavery. That's exactly how you got over here. Number 2 says forced labor. Forced labor is where someone is forced to undertake work against their will and threatened with violence. Like, people don't understand that, you know, for example, this dumbass in the chat is saying, how are you so oppressed? You understand that as soon as slavery ended, quote unquote, emancipation of slavery happened, you had something called vagrants laws, which meant if you did not work, you were going to be put in jail because it is a crime. It is illegal not to work. It is illegal not to work. They made that a law. And they locked black people up by the millions, put them in jail, and forced them to work. This is coming out of slavery. That is a form of slavery. It says the International Labor Organization defines it explicitly as work that is performed involuntarily and under the menace of any penalty. Let me see if I closed all those too. Do you understand how many people today are incarcerated inside of an American prison? And they fit this example to the T. It says work that is performed involuntarily and under the menace of any penalty. Let me share my screen. This was from the University of Chicago. It said U.S. prison labor programs violate fundamental human rights. New report finds. This was published in June 16th, 2022. It says incarcerated workers generate billions of dollars worth of goods and services annually, but are paid pennies per hour without proper training. So you get locked up inside of America, and I'm not going to teach a whole class on the whole prison system today, but a quick rundown to understand is, let me see if I pull that number up really quick. If I just look up, in 2025, it says there are approximately 1.9 million, nearly 2 million individuals that are currently incarcerated in the United States. It is by far the highest number. America has by far the highest number of incarcerated people amongst the entire globe. Like I said, I'm not going to get too deep on the whole prison system today, but out of those 2 million people, you better believe the majority of them are Black, Hispanic, and Indigenous people. Black, Hispanic, and Indigenous. It's always Black, Hispanic, and Indigenous. Why? Because we are the children of God. It says, let me see if I can get the numbers. Let me go down to the key findings. It says nearly 2/3, which is 65%, of incarcerated people report working behind bars, amounting to roughly 800,000 workers incarcerated in prison. So out of those 2 million people that are incarcerated, 800,000 of them are working. Okay, they are working. It says more than 3/4 of incarcerated people surveyed report facing punishment such as solitary confinement, denial of sentence reductions, or loss of family visitation if they decline to work. Prison laborers are the mercy of their employers. They have no control over their work assignment, are excluded from minimum wage and overtime protection, are unable to unionize, do not receive adequate training and equipment, and are denied workplace safety guarantees despite often dangerous working conditions. Let me get down to the good stuff. Incarcerated workers produce at least $2 billion in goods. That is annually. It says, yet, but most states pay incarcerated workers pennies per hour for their work. 7 states, Alabama, Arkansas, Florida, Georgia, Mississippi, South Carolina, and Texas, pay nothing for the vast majority of prison work. Other states pay on average between 15 and 52 cents per hour. You're inside a prison, you're working for 15 cents per hour. Some states you are working for free. And you're producing over $2 billion worth of goods. You can look into some of the companies that thrive off of prison incarceration work. You got places like Walmart, Costco. Those are the two big ones I remember. Target's another company. They make money off of paying incarcerated workers 15 cents per hour, sometimes nothing. It is a $1 billion industry. You understand? That is happening today. Let me go back to the definition of slavery. Okay, what is the 6 types of slavery? You have forced labor. Number 3, you have debt bondage. Debt bondage is where those trapped in poverty are forced to borrow money from others and can then be forced to work in order to pay back this debt. This is one of the most common types of slavery. Debt bondage. Ask yourself today, who do you think is the most in debt inside of America? I feel like I don't even have to go into the statistics for this. If you're Black, Hispanic, or Indigenous, you already know the amount of debt that you've accumulated. And this is the most common form of slavery. That's what it says. This is one of the most common types of slavery. It's called debt bondage. Let me share my screen on something. This is an article from, Slovakia, not that one. This is an article from the Federal Reserve Bank of Richmond. It says, how big is the inheritance gap between Black and white families? One of the most striking differences between Black and white households is a large disparity in wealth. A potential source of this gap is difference in transfers of wealth within families through bequests or gifts. Speaking on what you gift your children or what wealth you transfer to your children. It says in this article, we document who receives such transfers and the distribution of transfers among those who receive them. Black individuals are much less likely to receive any inheritance or gifts. Black recipients receive smaller amounts and have a much lower probability of extremely large transfers. One of the most striking differences between black and white households is a large disparity in wealth. The scale of the gap can be seen in a simple comparison. The median white household held nearly 9 times as much wealth as its black counterparts. $180,000 versus $20,000. So if you're black, Hispanic, or indigenous, you can expect to get around $20,000 in wealth transfer when your parents die. If you're white, you can expect to get on average $180,000 of wealth transferred down to you. Okay? And so let me jump down to the conclusion, because I'm going to tie this in with debt. This is important to understand. It says, we use data from the SCF to contrast intergenerational wealth transfers among black and white families. We find that black individuals are much less likely to receive any inheritances or gifts. Even when receiving transfers, black individuals receive smaller amounts with much lower probability of extremely large transfers. Those familiar with the black-white wealth gap may not find these results surprising. Perhaps more surprising is the lack of an educational gradient in transfers among black families, even as the gradient for white families is pronounced. While first-generation college graduates may not expect much in the way of transfers from their less educated parents, black individuals with college-educated parents are also very unlikely to receive transfers. Our findings, along with historical data showing a long-standing wealth gap, suggest that low wealth can persist among black families for generations. So if you're black and you have a college-educated parents, you are also very unlikely to receive any money passed down to you. If I jump up a little, it says, while the odds that a white individual receives a transfer increase monotonically with their parents' education, the pattern for black individuals is much weaker. The fraction of black individuals who have college graduate parents and receive transfers is only 1.2% percentage points higher than the fraction for those whose parents' highest attainment was high school. So what's this saying? It's saying if you're a black man and your parents go to college, you're a sister, you go to college, you have only a 1.2% chance, higher chance of transferring wealth down to your children. That is it. 1.2% higher chance. And what's something that's so consistent that they always tell blacks, Hispanics, and indigenous? Why don't you just get a job? Why don't you go to school and get an education? Go to college and be somebody. Isn't that what they tell us? The black sister inside of America is the highest educated person inside all of America. Our black sisters are coming out with 2 and 3 different master's degrees. And with all that education, we only have a 1.2% higher chance of transferring wealth to our children. But for some reason, if a white family They do the same thing and get a higher education. The amount of wealth that gets transferred is out the roof. Again, this is for a different class, but you start looking into the amount of debt that Black people accumulate going to college. It is insane. Not only is it harder for a Black man, Hispanic man, and Indigenous man to get loans from any bank, when we do get the loans, we get slapped with a 20% interest rate, 25% interest rate, 14% interest rate. We get slapped with a debt that the banks damn near know we are never paying off. That same white boy or white girl goes to school, goes to college. What does she get? What does he get? They get a 4% interest rate on a $100,000 loan. Let me read this again. It says, number 3 is debt bondage. Debt bondage is where those trapped in poverty are forced to borrow money. So now you're a Black man inside America. Not only are you in poverty, and you're forced to borrow money because of your poverty, you're also told this goddamn lie that if you go to school and get better educated, that you can now be somebody. That you can make a life for your family and your kids. The statistics say you only have a 1.2% higher chance of transferring down wealth and transferring gifts down to your children if you go to college. 1.2 higher percent chance. And what is that average number? $20,000. You're going to pass $20,000 to your kids. When your European counterpart is going to pass $180,000 to their children. So what's the point of going to school? What's the point of getting a college education? And I'm not saying that this is the stance of the ISUPK not to get a college education. You should be educated. You should take out all the loans and all the money in the world that you can, because this kingdom is falling. You should spend all the damn money you can. Why? Because this is not our rest. Give to Caesar what Caesar's. Understand that this is not a place that we can build wealth. This is not a place where we can build inheritance for our children. This is not a place where we can build our kingdom. And historically, you see every time Black people have tried, it has been destroyed by the American government. We did things like built up Tulsa, Oklahoma, Black Wall Street. And America literally bombed our community. This is a form of slavery. It's called debt bondage. Again, it's debt bondage is where those trapped in poverty are forced to borrow money. Black man, Hispanic man, and Indigenous man, you have been trapped in poverty since the time you've been over here inside of America. Number 4 says descent-based slavery. This is where the status of being a slave is passed down through family ties. And this is why it's always, so sickening to hear a European say, why should I have to pay for slavery? When if you understood what slavery was, you would understand descent-based slavery. Being the child of a slave affects you. Being a child of poverty affects you. Being a child of somebody who owes thousands or hundreds of thousands of dollars of debt affects you. You're Black, Hispanic, or Indigenous. How many of you have parents that are going to die with $200,000 worth of debt? Think about that. How many of you got parents who that you know if they pass away today, that all that debt collector is going to start calling down your phone. All that debt is going to get transferred onto you. And then what do? You declare bankruptcy? You pay off your parents' debt? The poverty cycle continues. And every study will show that the wage gap between whites and blacks is only getting worse. It is only increasing. It's been increasing since the emancipation of slavery. Because that is descent-based slavery. There's different ways to oppress a people. There are absolutely different ways to oppress a people. And Europeans understand that. I think it was Abraham Lincoln who had a quote that said, "It was never my intentions to abolish slavery." He had no intentions of stopping slavery. So you think they just left black people to start roaming the streets of America? They just left indigenous people to start roaming the streets of America without coming up with a different plan? In the South, they had lost, I think it was 500,000 workers. And so they had to come up with a plan to replace all that work. And they did, because America would not be running without it. You see the incarceration rate of blacks, Hispanics, and indigenous today. That's just a small part of it. Let me pull up, let me drop this. And I'm going to share a little bit on the history of slavery. It's so important to understand that our oppressor is the absolute devil that the Bible speaks of. And when you understand that he is the devil, you can start to understand his character. You can start to understand how he moves. There are so many scriptures on the characteristics of Esau, the characteristics of this beast, our oppressor. And in starting to understand the mind of your oppressor, it can help you better understand your condition today. This is let me make this bigger. This is a book that's called The History of Slavery. All right. This is a book. It's titled The History of Slavery. In chapter 1, it says, "It is certainly a curious fact that so far as we can trace back the history of the human race, we discover the existence of slavery. One of the most obvious causes of this is to be found in the almost incessant wars which were carried on in the early periods of the world between tribes and nations, in which the prisoners taken were either slain or reduced to slavery. The Mosaic institutions were rather predicted upon the previous existence of slavery in the surrounding nations, then designed to establish it for the first time, and the provisions of the Jewish law upon this subject affected changes and modifications which must have improved the condition of slaves among that peculiar people. Now, why do I bring that up? Because this historian in this book is going through the entire history of slavery that is documented in the human race. And one of his findings, he says that the then designed to establish it for the first time of slavery, and the provisions of the Jewish law upon this subject affected changes and modifications which must have improved the condition of slaves among that peculiar people. You want to know something about Blacks, Hispanics, and Indigenous? We are a peculiar people. That is exactly what the Bible says. That is exactly what God calls the children of Israel. A peculiar people. You want to know something about Blacks, Hispanics, and Indigenous? We are by far the most compassionate people on the face of the earth. We are such a compassionate people that when you look in the historical records of every nation that has ever been in slavery, they say that the Jews did something different. That the laws of the Israelites affected changes and modifications which must have improved the conditions of slaves. This is why it's so important for Blacks, Hispanics, and Indigenous to take back their culture. Because if Blacks, Hispanics, and Indigenous ruled the planet Earth, then the conditions of slavery would change. You read in the book of, Deuteronomy 28 or Deuteronomy chapter 15. You look through Deuteronomy chapter 15, you'll see laws that say that you have to free your slave after, 7 years? The year of Jubilee. If you have somebody that owes a debt to you, it is a commandment by God for you to release that brother or sister so that he can return back to his family. He can return back to his wife and kids. You're not going to have 400 years of debt passed down from generation to generation. That's something that Esau instills on this earth. You're not going to have 100 years of debt. If you don't pay off that debt after 6, 7 years, the Lord said not to, harden your heart against your brother. Let him free. Why? Because the Most High will provide for you. The land will provide for you. That land flowing the milk and honey will make sure that you are good. don't oppress your brother for 200 years worth of debt. So historically, you see that the laws of the Jews, it affected changes. It improved the condition of slaves among that peculiar people. It says there were various modes by which the Hebrews might be reduced to servitude. A poor man might sell himself. A father might sell his children. Debtors might be delivered as slaves to their creditors. Thieves who were unable to make restitution for the property stolen were sold for the benefit of the sufferers. Prisoners of war were subjected to servitude. And if a Hebrew captive was redeemed by another Hebrew from a Gentile, he might be sold by his deliverer to another Israelite. At the return of the year of Jubilee, all Jewish captives were set free. Read that one more time. It says, at the return of the year of Jubilee, all Jewish captives were set free. If blacks, Hispanics, and indigenous ruled this world, slavery would be abolished. Because why? What is one of the types of slavery? It's called debt bondage, descent-based slavery, slavery of children, debt passed on from generation to generation, being born into slavery because you're the child of a slave. That would not exist if blacks, Hispanics, and indigenous ruled this world. Let me jump over to where it starts speaking on another nation. It says, among those who were denominated slaves in the more lax or general use of the term, we may reckon those who were distinguished among the Romans by the appellation of mercenary, so called from the circumstances of their hire. These were free-born citizens who from the various contingencies of fortune were under the necessity of recurring for support to the service of the rich. A contract subsisted between the parties, and most of the dependents had the right to demand and obtain their discharge if they were ill-used by their masters. Among the ancients, there was another class of servants, which consisted wholly of those who had suffered the loss of liberty from their own imprudence. Such were the Grecian prodigals who were detained in the service of their creditors until the fruits of their labor were equivalent to their debts. The delinquents who were sentenced to the oar and the German enthusiasts mentioned by Tacitus, who were so addicted to gaming that when they had parted with everything else, they staked their liberty and their persons. The loser says the historian goes into a voluntary servitude, and though younger and stronger than the person with whom he played, patiently suffers himself to be bound and sold. Their perseverance in so bad a custom is styled honor. The slaves thus obtained are immediately exchanged away in commerce, that the winner may get rid of the scandal of his victory. The two classes now enumerated comprehend those that may be called the voluntary slaves, and they are distinguished from those denominated involuntary slaves, who were forced without any previous condition or choice into a situation which, as it tended to degrade a part of the human species, and to class it with brutal, tended to degrade part of the human species, must have been of all situations the most wretched and insupportable. So you have Roman culture and Grecian culture where they damn near look at slavery like a game. They look at slavery as servitude to the rich. If you're a rich man inside of Greece, if you're a rich man inside of Rome, you're entitled to have slaves. Matter of fact, Europeans thought slavery was so funny, they made it a game. They'd make bets. They would gamble. They would play a game, and if you lost that game, you were going to be a slave for the rest of your life. Not only were you going to be a slave for the rest of your life, but you have children. You dare have children. Those children are also the possession of that master. It said, let me read that again. It said, as it tended to degrade a part of the human species and to class it with the brutal, must have been of all situation the most wretched and insupportable. Could you, like, this is a historian's account on being a slave inside of Rome and Greece. This is a historian who's started off by speaking on the history of slaves amongst the Israelites. And it wasn't anything of being wretched. What are some of the words they used? Wretched, brutal, insupportable. It tended to degrade a part of the human species. The historian used none of that language when defining slavery amongst Israel. Matter of fact, they went as far as to say that Israel upgraded what slavery looked like in the world. It says, the class of involuntary slaves included those who were prisoners of war, and these were more ancient than the voluntary slaves, who are first mentioned in the time of Pharaoh. The practice of reducing prisoners of war to the condition of slaves existed both among the Eastern nations and the people of the West. As for the Helots became the slaves of the Spartans, merely from the right of conquest. So prisoners of war were reduced to the same situation by the other inhabitants of Greece. It says, the Romans also were actuated by the same principle, and all those nations which contributed to overturn the empire adopted a similar custom, so that it was a general maxim in their polity that those who fell under their power as prisoners of war should immediately be reduced to the condition of slaves. The slaves of the Greeks were generally barbarians and imported from foreign countries. There was one other part I wanted to read, but I think I can drop that. Yeah, we can drop that. And so this is some of the history of slavery. Okay? This is some of the history of slavery that has gone throughout the earth. This is from a book called Ancient Slavery. All right? Or the History of Slavery. Okay? Definitely a good book to pick up. Because what does the Bible say in Ecclesiastes? It says there's no new thing under the sun. There's no new thing under the sun. Salaki. There's no new thing under the sun. And what that means is there's no new spirit. The things that you have seen on the earth before, you see again today. You know, we love to say that slavery was in the past, and the way that, you know, humans dealt with people back then, we deal with people so much better today. When that is a load of bullshit. There's a, let me see if I can look that statistic up. If I just looked up, let me share my screen on this. I just did a quick Google search and said, how many people are enslaved today? And what popped up was, let's see if I can make that bigger. It says 50 million people. As of now, an estimated 50 million people are victims of modern slavery worldwide, with the highest numbers found in Asia and the Pacific. This figure reflects a significant increase from previous estimates, highlighting the ongoing issue of modern slavery globally. Slavery is well and alive today. You look up all the different things going on with sex trafficking and child labor, different forms of modern day slavery. You can call it what you want, but these right here are some of the main ways to identify the different types of slavery. In the Roman world or the Greek world, what do they call them? Different types of slaves would be a domestic slave or an agricultural slave. You had slaves that were quote unquote gladiators, sex slaves. These things have always existed. That's why the Bible says there's no new thing under the sun. It says, slavery today, due to multiple reasons, notably vulnerability exacerbated by poverty, people are exploited and their human rights are abused in regards to slavery. Forced labor generates over $150 billion per year. And in today's interconnected and globalized world, modern slavery exists in both overtly and hidden ways. And this is what people have to understand. What is, let me grab that scripture in Psalms. You go to the book of Psalms, chapter 55, and verse 21. Psalms 55 and 21 says, the words of his mouth were smoother than butter. And why is that important? Because any clinical psychologist, anybody who studies slavery and what it is, what it truly is, what's the word they used? Slavery exists today. It's just overt. It's hidden. They have different ways of labeling things. Psalms 55:21 says the words of his mouth were smoother than butter. Your oppressor would have you believe that you are not oppressed inside of America. Your oppressor would have you believe that you are a free man, knowing good and damn well that you give your money back to the devil that gave it to you. All the money you make goes back into his kingdom. You get $1,000 from working. You give $1,000 to your landlord. You get $1,000 from working. You give $1,000 to Costco, to Kroger's, to Target, to Walmart. You buy all your food from your oppressor. Your water, your clothes. We don't have our own textile mills inside of America. Where's all the quote-unquote black farmers? Native American farmers that we can just give our money to and build up our people. You're going to have some dumbass like Abdul Azim say, you're not oppressed today. He's going to say, well, you want to be a black farmer, go be a black farmer. Go get an education and be a black farmer. That black farmer is passing down $20,000 to his kids. That's what the statistics show. Maybe being a farmer isn't enough money. Maybe you should go be a lawyer. That black man who's a lawyer, he only has a 1.2% higher chance of passing on more wealth to his family. That's why the Bible says the words of his mouth were smoother than butter. If you think you are not oppressed inside of America, you are living under a rock. Let me share something Cap Tazariak shared a clip on. Oh. This is something that he shared a clip on, something Mike Epps had posted.
I don't give a fuck how I deal with black people.
Let me pause it. This is a quick clip from something that Mike Epps said. You're black in America and you think you're not oppressed. Let's see what a millionaire, somebody who quote unquote made it inside of America, thinks.
Well, I just go back to slavery. Fuck it, nigga. Let's talk about slavery, nigga. I don't give a fuck how much money you got. I don't give a fuck where you been. We're still on the plantation, brother. You know what I'm saying? And if I see a nigga with $1 billion, guess what? I'm gonna be looking at him from the field like, you know, I want to come in there with you. I want to put an outfit on. I want.
You want an outfit too?
You fucking right. That's what come with the house.
It's hot out here. I want one of them nice outfits. I want some clean water. I want everything in that.
The privilege that they give black people, that only black people can flex on other black people with, because that's all you can do, because you can't flex on the motherfucker master, because he gave it to you. And go out there and flex on your people, because if you flex on me, your ass is in trouble.
And that, you know, and that's like, to that quick point, you could have $10 million in your bank account. What did he say? Your master gave it to you. That is not wealth. Everything you got was given by your master. That house you own, the clothes you have, the car you drive. Which is why what Martin Luther King did and stood for was so diabolical in encouraging us to join with our oppressor. Blacks, Hispanics, and indigenous, we don't understand as a people what true freedom really is. You tell a black man you don't like it here, go back to Africa. Nigga, we're not from Africa. If a Chinese man comes over to America and he comes to the conclusion he doesn't like it here, guess what? He can go back to China. He can have his Chinese dollar, his Chinese military, his Chinese government, his Chinese hospital, his Chinese schools, his Chinese restaurants. Where's the black man gonna go? Back to Kenya? Back to Ghana? Back to the people that sold us into slavery? Where's the native Indian man gonna go? The North American Indian. If he doesn't like it here. Anybody with common sense would say, maybe you should leave. Maybe the indigenous people were already here. Maybe Europeans should go back to where they came from. That's why the Bible's so heavy. It says, if a man owes you a debt, let him go after 7 years. Let him go after 7 years. Don't harden your heart towards that man. These devils came over here, raped, robbed, and murdered our ancestors, kept us in hard bondage for 200 years, then put us in overt oppression for another 150 years. And they somehow have the nerve to say, go back to Africa. I'd have more respect for a European that said colonization worked. We won. We won the war. We oppressed you. We took over your land and made this place our kingdom. And no, it is not our homeland. We came from the Caucasus Mountains. Cave dweller, the original caveman. Right out of the cave and enslaved and oppressed you. Instead, they'll tell you, go back to Africa. The scriptures say that the words of his mouth were smoother than butter. But in his heart was drawn swords. Passive aggressive as hell. We don't have a land to go back to. The indigenous man is you can quote unquote say in the land that you came and conquered. He has nowhere else to go. Everything that you get inside of this kingdom doesn't belong to you. Let me finish out this video.
Flex on your people. Because if you flex on me, your ass is in trouble. And what you got, that's my fuck up money. I spend that in taxes. So go be a king to your own people. But don't come over here and act like you're a king to us. And if I catch you biting and snapping back at me, I'm going to take that shit from you, embarrass you, and make your people talk about you and turn on you again. That's what they do to us with that shit. You know you can't take it with you. You don't own the shit. And your people are loyal to you. It really is. That's the only fucked up thing about having something more than your own people. You can only flex on your own people. You can flex. You go in front of a homeless white man and you got $1 billion. That motherfucker still laugh at you. Fuck you, nigga. You be like, damn, you poor. In I seen him. Go ride up in Malibu and walk past one of them surfboard homeless white dudes, and you pull up in your Bentley. He be looking at you like, that ain't shit. So you like, motherfucker, you homeless. I'm still white.
Whoa. Now think about this. How many Black, Hispanic, and Indigenous brothers and sisters have quote unquote made it, become rich? All the different actors, all the different stars, all the famous people, all the musicians, all the athletes. You know how much talent we have amongst Black, Hispanics, and Indigenous? Almost every single major sports league is run by Blacks, Hispanics, and Indigenous. We dominate all of sports. We dominate music. We're the most talented people on this earth. The greatest restaurants you've ever eaten at, the greatest food you've ever tasted. First Black heart surgeon. All the different inventions we've come out with. Black woman invented the vaccine to the COVID-19. With all the money we've made inside of this place, you're telling me that the average wealth transfer and gifts that we give down, that we pass down to our kids, is $20,000? With Jay-Z's $1 billion, Kanye West $1 billion, you're telling me that the average money that we transfer down to our children is $20,000? What is let me see. You had Tiger Woods. Tiger Woods has earned a total of $120 million from official tournaments and endorsements, with his best year being $10 million in 1 year. 2024, he earned $43,000 so far, and his net worth is estimated to be around $1.1 billion. The only Black man to come in on the golf scene and play golf. By far, made more money than any golfer had ever seen. All this money and all we can transfer is $20,000 onto our kids. We don't understand how destroyed we are as a people. One of the generals in the ISUPK, I believe that was Yaikwab. You heard Commander General Yohannes speaking on this. When he told Mike Tyson, if you do not keep these laws, statutes, and commandments, I'm paraphrasing, you are going to be destroyed. Let me grab that verse. in Ecclesiastes, I believe it's chapter 12. You go to Ecclesiastes chapter 12, verse 13. Ecclesiastes chapter 12 and verse 13. Let me share it on my screen. It says, "Let us hear the conclusion of the whole matter. Fear God and keep his commandments, for this is the whole duty of man." Yaquab told Mike Tyson, "If you don't keep these laws, you are going to be destroyed." Mike Tyson went on to be arguably the greatest boxer of all time. All that skill, all that talent. And in the black community, the best we can do is pass on $20,000 to our kids. It says, verse 14, "For God shall bring every work into judgment." This is why we have to keep the laws of God, because under the sun is a place of judgment. This earth, our everyday lives, you wake up and you get out of bed, this is the place of judgment. And if you don't obey God, you are going to be destroyed. These laws, statutes, and commandments were given to the children of Israel. They were given to us as a way of life. These laws were given for us to show us and to teach us on how to maintain a society, how to run as a nation, how to survive as a people. We do that by being brotherly and sisterly. We do that by how we treat one another. Everything that we do, it said God shall bring every work into judgment. Your pastor telling you that, it's not by works. Your works don't matter. God said he shall bring every work into judgment. With every secret thing, whether it be good or whether it be evil. Everything that you do on this earth, you are going to be judged for. You're going to be punished or you're going to be rewarded. That's our life. This slavery, this oppression that we're in, is not going to stop until we change as a people. What's that saying? 2 Chronicles chapter 6 and verse 37. If we would bethink ourselves in the land of our captivity. Bethink means to rethink, to change the way that our mind views things, to change the way we act. If we would do that in the land of our captivity and return to the Most High, then would he free us from this place. Then would he take us from the land of our captivity. Somebody tells you that you're not oppressed, you're not enslaved, you're not destroyed as a people. They're going against everything that God said. Right? What's it saying? Deuteronomy 28:68. If you would disobey my commandments, I would sell you to your enemies, sell you to a people that hate you. That's exactly our history. Where's let me pull that verse up in 2nd Chronicles. Oh, let me shut that down. This is a 2nd Chronicles, I believe it's chapter or verse 37. Yeah, 2nd Chronicles chapter 6 verse 37 says, "If yet they bethink themselves in the land whither they are carried captive." Black man, Hispanic man, indigenous man, you were carried captive. You were taken from northern parts of America and dropped off in Trinidad, dropped off into Haiti, to the Dominican, into Brazil, to Panama and Guatemala. Black man was sold from Africans over in West Africa, went on to slave ships and carried over to the Americas. Indigenous brothers taken from America on a slave ship over to Spain and Portugal. You had the Arab slave trade. The Lord said if they would bethink themselves in the land whither they are carried captive to the four corners of the earth. The majority of us in North and South Central America. Says, and turn and pray unto thee in the land of their captivity. This is the land of your captivity, black man, Hispanic man, indigenous man. You are a captive inside of this place. That is not going to change until the Most High takes you out of here. Jamaicans thought going over to Ethiopia was a way out of captivity. You think going back to Ghana and the year of return is a way out of your captivity. You had some brothers go over to Dimona, Israel, thinking that they could get out of their captivity. And the Lord said, if they would pray unto thee in the land of their captivity, saying, we have sinned, we have done amiss, and have dealt wickedly. That's what the Most High is waiting for. For us as a nation to turn away from the disgusting things that we do. He says, if they return to thee with all their heart and with all their soul in the land of their captivity, not try to run out of the land of their captivity, not try to escape the land of their captivity, not go to Dimona, Israel, not go over to places in Africa. We have over 655,000 African Americans who are living abroad, trying to get out of this captivity. Not understanding what the Most High wants. He said, if we would return to thee with all their heart and with all their soul in the land of their captivity, whither they have carried them captives, and pray towards their land, the land which thou gavest unto their fathers, and toward the city which thou hast chosen, and toward the house which I have built for thy name. Ghana was not built for our name. Africa was not built for our name. that place, that house that the Most High built for our name is Israel. That's why in the ISUPK we turn and face the east. We pray to that land. We pray to that pit that the Most High loves. Jerusalem, the holy city. The place where the Most High put his face. We pray to the east and say, we have done wicked things on this earth, and we are not going to do them anymore. Verse 39 says, then hear thou from the heavens. That's when the Most High will hear us. When we change who we are, when we bethink ourselves, when we stop being Christians, we stop being drug addicts, we stop believing in monogamy, we stop selling drugs to our people, we stop worshiping all these other different gods. That's why it says the Lord doesn't hear sinners' prayer. You can't be a sinner and think that the Lord is going to hear you. How many hundreds of years have we been Christian? This dude in the comments, Abdullah, says, turn to Islam. How many hundreds of years has a black man been a Muslim? Went to the Nation of Islam, became a Muslim, and you are still a slave. The Lord is not going to hear you when you do these things. He says, then hear thou from the heavens, even from thy dwelling place, their prayer and their supplications, and maintain their cause, and forgive thy people, which have sinned against thee. You got to repent, black man, Hispanic man, indigenous man. You got to turn back to the laws of God. That's when your captivity ends. That's when your slavery and oppression ends. The so-called Jewish man was given an entire land, created the state of Israel, has his own land, his own government. You can't go back to Africa and do that. Where did the president of Ghana say all the children of slaves can come to Ghana and have their own land, have their own community, their own hospitals, their own government, their own army? Where did the president of Ghana say that? Where did the president of Kenya say we could do that? Tried to go to Dimona, Israel, and you ended up joining the Jewish man's army. That is not our way out of here. Let me grab one last verse. Deuteronomy 28 and 15 says, but it shall come to pass, if thou wilt not hearken unto the voice of the Lord thy God, to observe to do all his commandments and his statutes, which I command thee this day, that all these curses shall come upon thee and overtake thee. It doesn't matter where you are, black man, Hispanic man, indigenous man. These curses will overtake you. The definition of overtake means catch up with and pass while traveling in the same direction. Doesn't matter if you move to Japan tomorrow, these curses will overtake you. They will catch up with you wherever you go. It's what it means to overtake. To overthrow, to destroy, to consume. These curses will overtake you. Your slavery doesn't end because Martin Luther King goes and does a march. Slavery doesn't end because Michelle Obama becomes president. Slavery ends when you obey the Most High. You go to verse 1, it says, "And it shall come to pass, if thou shalt hearken diligently unto the voice of the Lord thy God, to observe and to do all his commandments which I command thee this day, that the Lord thy God will set thee on high above all nations of the earth." And what you see on this earth today is blacks, Hispanics, and indigenous on the bottom of society, no matter where they go. Look at the brothers and sisters that went to Dimona. They were on the bottom of society. Look at the Jamaicans that went to Ethiopia. They are on the bottom of society. The African American man that went to Ghana, to Kenya, they are on the bottom of society. Mike Epps, living in America, making all this money, he is below his oppressor. He is not above. That money is given to him by his master. And if he doesn't act right, his master will take it from him. Look at what happened to Kyrie Irving. Kyrie Irving shared a link to a book on a social media page. And his oppressor, his master, threatened to take everything from him if he didn't apologize and denounce that book. Look what happened to Kanye West. Kanye West says something, calls himself a Jew. The oppressor takes everything from him. Why? Because we are not above these other nations. The Lord said if we obeyed him, that he would put us high above all nations. That's what you see on this earth. You see blacks, Hispanics, and indigenous on the bottom of society and everything. Look up any news article. Look up any statistic. You're going to see blacks, Hispanics, and indigenous at the bottom. Because it's a very spiritual thing. All right. So with that, I'm going to end Monday Night History class. Again, make sure you like, share, subscribe, hit that like button, hit that share button. All right. Shalom, Israel.